Hey guys, Bolt here, and I would like to make this clear. I'm trying to do this quick because I am supposed to be asleep and trying to get up in like 6 hours for a morning shift. But anyways, this is something that I really wanted to get out because I think it's something that's needed. So if you guys don't know, Walton Files has two specials, I think, technically. There's the Christmas special, Boozoo's Ghost, and then there is the Pumpkin Rabbit, which is part one is known as Mysterious House, and part two is Return of the Pumpkin Rabbit. And I'd say it's probably their second most. Like it uses the same characters from the Walton Files to kind of redesign them into new characters, but I think Pumpkin Rabbit might be the bigger of the two. Um, well, no, because the Walden Files has more views, but I'd say Pumpkin Rabbit is the more like when he comes around, it feels special. Um, Anyways, if you guys don't know, recently it released a VHS on the retro. It will be in the description. So before I start getting into the little stories, people that don't know or have not watched the Mysterious House or Return of the Pumpkin Rabbit, I'd say go watch that, not to get spoiled on any of this stuff. But also, I suggest just going to the link, and if you have a VCR, just purchasing the tape and watching it, because I feel like this is a better experience than just the YouTube. YouTube is amazing, but because this was worked on a little bit, uh, it was given more elbow grease than the originals. Not to mention, it has stuff that the original didn't have, and I think it might help explain a little bit better. Anyways, my job here is to kind of like get the people who want to go out there, hunt the full thing, and watch it themselves. I just want to knock your curiosity, just so you're not hunting for an illegal variant of it, because Martin basically said you can upload the pictures, but the uh, video you can't, because it's on the actual tape saying it's illegal. Similar to every other tape, it's a disclaimer: don't copy or do anything to the film on this tape. So it's illegal to distribute it in any other fashion except for the official version. Um, anyways, like I said, Pumpkin Rabbit is, I think it's the second to probably the most special of Walton's creations. Um, and now that it's got VHS, a lot of people are complaining that it's kind of unfair to lock something that feels this special onto something that is, one, not everyone can purchase a $30 tape, but also VCRs are hard to come by nowadays. Um, but anyways, I think it's also cool. So I'm gonna let this like now. I don't think you're missing anything if you go and watch Mysterious House and Return the Pumpkin Rabbit. I think you get most of the context. There's like two things on this tape that adds to everything. Like of course there's little details here and there that kind of comes together better, but I think you're not missing out any big information except for like two things. Um, and I'm gonna explain it here. Um, Not to the full thing to kind of spoil it and make it to where the purchasing is worthless, but um, anyways, spoilers. I'm just gonna go ahead and do a little summary of the story. So basically, it's like Nashville Lake. It is within the like cartoon averse of the Bonds Burgers videotape. I think it's like this is something that would be in universe in the Walton Files. This was like a horror movie set in the Walton Files. Um, and in that universe is also the Bonds Burgers restaurant, where you can find the characters, not just animatronics, them as like actual characters. Bond being the owner of the restaurant, and then Shaw and them being his employees. Um, but anyways, so Nashville Lake, Bond's Burgers exist, but it's centered around a couple, Lorenzo and Rachel Waterman, which are based on the Waltons. But unlike the Waltons, this is known to be the. I think actually it fits very similar to. Um, there was a. It was a horror series that was you'd only see pictures, and it was of like ghosts under the house, and it was of a couple that killed through means, and if it weren't for like uh, that, they'd be the perfect human beings because everyone saw them as the nice, kind people, and that's what the Watermans are. Um, they'd be the nice neighbors, they'd be the kindest people, but like once Halloween comes around, they're no better than Jason and Freddy. Um, so in the tape, it makes better sense. Um, but in Pumpkin Rabbit and Return and Mysterious House, it does kind of give some hints to what happens. So basically, it looks like um, Rachel is kind of more of the helper, while Lorenzo goes around killing the kids. They basically, during trick or treating, take the kids in. Hey, it's too late. You might as well sleep here, being the kind neighbors that they are. But then it's like, hey, time to kill you. And in the tape, it kind of shows that he's more of a crafter. He uses them as decoration, I think. Because in the of the Pumpkin Rabbit, you can see uh, Tammy, the victim of Mysterious House, as a scarecrow. And I think that's supposed to kind of like show off that it's just like after the death, he'd do something to them to kind of use them and hide them away so they don't like. If it was just a body sitting out there, it'd eventually get noticed. Um, I mean, scary story in real life, but a body was found among decorations. So it is very hard if it's just like one day a year, something's just sitting there and you don't know any better unless you touch it. Um, and you're out of decency. You're not going to go touching everyone's decorations. Um, so most of the time, if these kids are just getting used, you wouldn't know any better. Um, but anyways, that's kind of like the thing of the story is just like kids keep going missing. The last known location is this nice couple that's hidden away on a hill. We don't know. We just saw them trick or treating. Here's a picture of them. Oh no. Well, I don't even know if they had pictures given, but they have a little like they take a picture after they give them candy, being like, "We like to remember our guest," which I don't think they ever show to anyone that they were the last there. They probably just say, "Oh, we never came across them," or they may have said, "Hey, we maybe saw them, but they were nice kids. I can't remember where they went though." You know, um, but it's kind of just normal, classic serial killer stuff. But now getting into the actual thing, so Tales of the Pumpkin Rabbit is basically it has some extra effects, like in Return of the Pumpkin Rabbit. In the pumpkin patch scene, Ralph kind of just runs away from Lorenzo with just some music. They add effects. They hear his breathing and stuff. There's a few extra little things added to kind of like make a scene feel more whole. Like at the end, they show a few things like one thing that maybe not finished. Um, and then I'd say, oh, I didn't even pull it up yet. I did go ahead and get pictures for you guys, um, but I will say I'm only using 20. Um, and I'm only using ones that, well, most of them are officially from like the trailers of one and the first two trailers of the VHS release announcement, and then there's only a handful that are the actual from the VHS itself because, um, even though what Martin has said, it is okay to do pictures. I'd rather use as little as possible here. Um, um, anyways, that's of course the Pumpkin Rabbits VHS tape, um, and we do get to see a new style. Let's see here. Come on. Okay, there we go. So this is the new remake of Mysterious House in the VHS. This is from the official trailers, and then this was how it looked originally. You can see the difference here. I personally like this style because it feels more Walton Filesy. I know this is supposed to feel more authentic to what this time of a video and movie would show. Um, but this feels more like Garfield and Friends. But it does feel more Walton Filesy for this style. Um, and then we do get in, so in a Mysterious House, they use like a, what is it, like those robot voices to voice the witch sheep, Rachel Waterman. But in Return of the Pumpkin Rabbit, she actually gets a voice actor, and we do of course get her getting her original voice actor for Mysterious House. Um, and in general, I'd say it's a lot better of an experience than the original videos because they polished it up, made it better. They added more things to kind of connect things, to move on things. Um, let's just get into the additions. So the biggest part of the tales is they add this guy in. This is just known as the Wolfman, or he's known as like the museum owner. So he is basically, if you guys remember from Five Nights at Freddy's 3, there is Fazbear Frights. It's a horror attraction that they take stuff from Fazbear's and use it to kind of like, oh, it's spooky, scary from the past. And he does the same thing. It's a local legend. Let's take all the things I can get a hold of. Let me buy the actual house. Let me set it all up. And he makes a little museum after the of the murders, to kind of make it a little tour spot. Um, and you are basically seeing this part of the film through the what is it? The POV of a cameraman who I believe is just a normal visitor, which is kind of weird because it's like if you're from a museum or something, yes, taking pictures are here and there, but just videotaping almost the entire museum, so like no one has a reason to come to this town. Um, I feel like be against the normal rules, but I guess this guy might want to show off a little bit based on his personality. Um, but he kind of is like, actually, I got the perfect thing for you guys. Go ahead and hide that real quick. Um, if you guys remember from that time um, of horror movies and stuff, um, they used to do um, like narrators, like what you're about to see is gruesome, or what I actually remember from my childhood is Goosebumps. R.L. Stine during the Haunted Mask, one of the most well-known, famous stories he had. He started it. He showed it off. He put a little bit of a hook to it before you viewed the actual content. Um, anyhow, that's what I think is what this character was supposed to mean and was supposed to be. Go ahead and remove that so it's not in my way anymore. So anyways, that's kind of like the character. He's like a narrator to the tape, but yet he's also playing a part in the actual universe where after the Return of the Pumpkin Rabbit, he's bought the house, he's gotten all the little trinkets, he's made a little museum after it all. Um, I'd say a big thing that is to say about here is that this guy right here is a little too. Oh, oh, okay. So there's. I almost forgot. Yeah, there's a. This is a little thing about. He used Lorenzo's costume as the pumpkin rabbit, um, to dress up a scarecrow here, and you can kind of see the Waterman's house kind of outfitted as a museum now. But he's a little obsessed with the Watermans. Um, a little spoiler here, but that's also a part of the official, so I can use this. Um, so another little thing to kind of put a little spoiler on the tape is in the museum kind of viewing scene, he does mention that Ducky from the mysterious house. He's gotten all the little costumes for all kids, the victims, and he bought Ducky's costume from the family for $2,000. Like, I understand if you're trying to do this stuff, but he's that's kind of a lot of money for a kid's little cloth. You could have just bought another one. No, he's like going for the actual material. Um, so yeah, it's like he's got something going on. Um, sorry, excuse me. Still dealing with my stuff. Moving on to the Mysterious House remake. I'd say the little takeaways versus the original. We do get to see a better build of the relationship between Lorenzo and Rachel, because originally it's just like two people in the same building. You see them move around one another to make things happen. In this remake, you do get to kind of see them as that couple, and then you get little hints at what made them the neighbors that people kind of didn't suspect them as much. I know, like, eventually it's like, hey, you're kind of too nice. You're too little outgoing. It's always the nice and quiet ones that are the worst ones. Yeah. Um, and then, let's see here. And then we also kind of see, like, other scenes kind of get extensions. Like in the original Mysterious House, you saw Ducky get up and leave the room. Um, you get the reason why he leaves, and it's like haunting. It gives it like they're like tactics are shown more, I'd say. Um, and like I said, these are all from the trailer. Um, oh, one of the biggest things, and this is actually something that most people are spreading this one around, so I don't feel as bad because most people have seen this by now. If you're just hunting for images and stuff, one of my biggest things and biggest complaints of the original Mysterious House is, like, of course you have the two killers, Pumpkin and the sheep, kind of going around doing their own thing, but you introduce Billy and TVA. Billy, he kind of exists, and then like there's that little scary. He's in the like living room, just standing there idle, kind of like off-putting, and it's kind of just a creepy, unsettling feeling. But TVA, all he really does is hello, take picture of kids while they get candy, and then disappears. Um, apparently, this scene was cut during the original Mysterious House, and it is a good thing because I feel like if they made it cheaply versus how it looks here, I feel like it wouldn't have pulled off as much as it did here. Um, if you know the lore from the two specials, um, this scene is probably one of the most like horrific, I'd say. If you know some of the more deeper stuff, then it's like, so what is happening in this scene? And once you understand, it's like, ah, I am deeply uncomforted. um, but I do like them actually giving TVA an actual existence here. Um, and this kind of be like the parallel Billy's unsettling silence and just standing there as his actual like Walton Files design is kind of showed. Um, moving on. Um, oh, another big thing I'd say I liked was we did get more involvement of Rachel, because she's kind of the quiet figure of the two killers. It's like Lorenzo's the brutal uh, person that's just like bloodthirsty. So you get to see him show up more, while she's the more lurking about kind of one. Um, but you get to see her involvement in Mysterious House a little bit more. Um, and then real quick, I did not. I don't think I did. Okay, I shouldn't have. I should not have shown without unseeing. Um, they do redo the when Tammy goes to the funhouse area to find Ducky. Um, when finally it is revealed what she's in is a lot better done. From what I understand from a lot of people on Reddit is that that particular scene hasn't made it in some, because some people are confused about some of the photos that are showing up about it, which is like it's one of the scenes that gives Rachel more involvement, but it also doesn't just use it. It does the more realistic style, showing off the room, and it brings more horror to this situation. Um, the next one is another similar to the TVA one. It is a common picture you're gonna find across, but it is a big one that I would say is we actually get to see the death of Tammy. Tammy's death is shown. While yes, people did want to see Ducky's death, I feel like you in the original Mysterious House, um, it looks like he's been like ripped apart. He's been mold like melted. The remake of the introduction scene of the room kind of makes him feel similar to the rest. So I don't think it's meant to feel like that anymore. I think it was just something of that time of why when the Mysterious House was made, it wasn't too thought of how all the death of them are gonna look. Um, so I think it was just now he's kind of just a common death. Um, but yet it's kind of like we do know more about him getting lured away and the reason why, which I think is a lot more scary and a lot more unsettling when you finally come across him dead. Um, and then seeing the death of Tammy kind of adds and kind of gives you a little bit more of a. It does give you some relief from not seeing Ducky. Yeah, I'm not. That's kind of a bad thing to say about death, but it's kind of like when you're looking forward to seeing something when it's remade, and they actually give you at least something for you to buy it. You know, it feels like not it's not a prize for showing up, but it's a hey, at least you're seeing something that it may not have been the one you wanted to see. At least you've seen one of the two. Um, oh, and then two big things that I think it wasn't originally needed, but I think it does help the story. And I think this is why I would suggest if you have not seen the two specials by themselves, I would go buy the tape if you have a VCR and all that and have the money to do so. Um, because Mysterious House introducing these two elements um, more more naturally than what it did, because it's just like it didn't show up in the original mysterious house, and then all of a sudden just it is a fact in the Return of the Pumpkin Rabbit, which is we get the scrapbook, which kind of is like yes, we see the pictures of the kids around, but this is like their keepsake. But it's also kind of like if you've seen the Return of the Pumpkin Rabbit, um, it's the reason why they have like it's similar to William Afton with the kids in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. As long as they hold something like in the movie, it's a drawing that holds the kid the power over the kids, because that's their truth of Bunny Man is friend. In this one, it's just like this scrapbook is kind of to be the niceness of them. So if anything happens to this moment that kind of made the kids believe that they were going to be safe in this house, once those first photos are dealt with, or at least something happens to them, the kids will probably remember what happened to them after. And then the other thing is in Return of the Pumpkin Rabbit, major big character that just is like, so how did Lorenzo and Rachel eventually get found out? And like, yes, there is of course going to be people who are skeptical of them, but what is the thing that finally breaks the camel's back to make it is Tammy's sister. One of the victim's relatives. That it's like, so yes, technically not all siblings of main characters and all that are going to be of some kind of importance, but yet this character not only is a main character's a main victim's relative, but she's also the one that's just like, hey, I seen these people around, like this is the last time I seen them, and it was at the house of these people, and I asked that person, and instead of giving me an answer, I'm here. Um, so it is nice to finally get some moments with her at least. Um, because it's just like, hey, for like 5 seconds, show that she's hiding in a bush. Say that she's the one that kind of ratted out on the Watermans, and then just like move on. I would say this is probably one of the bigger of the two. Like, I didn't care too much about the scrapbook because it's just like that can be something that it's nice to have in Mysterious House, but yet it can be explained more in Returning the Pumpkin Rabbit. Where this is kind of like it's kind of needed because it's like, so how do we get from one point to the next? How can we go from murderers out and about to they're dead? They've been gone for a few years now, and now their spirits haunt the place. How did it come to this? And this being the thing that nipped it. Let's see here. I do like that they do have. Oh, actually, let me go ahead and go back. This right here is the scene that both Lorenzo and Rachel do talk about her. And little spoiler is that she was going to be the next victim if she came around or did anything. They really just kind of threw her off, and it was like, you let the one get away. Moving on to Return. Any new content from Return? In Return, this is the intro to it, but instead of just showing them at the house, they get dropped off by my mind went Jay's father, who's an officer, drops them off for trick-or-treating, and they run into Bonds, and we actually get to see them interact, because we do get mentions of them in Return. Like, we get to see Bonds in Return of the Pumpkin Rabbit, but we don't get to see the characters or them interact or anything. So this is like, hey, they exist. Um, and uh, then the other thing that changed was the outro. So instead of, well, oh yeah, I didn't want to mention that we do get to see them in this universe through the plushy advertisements, and that's the cartoons we see normally. Um, but the next big thing, and this is one of the two reasons, you know, this I understand people do get peeved about something strong and something major getting locked is Jay's father, which we learn is known as Officer M apparently, um, thanks to the wolf. Um, he has a history both in the past as an adult and as a child with the Watermans. Um, no connection to the murders. Well, he did not help them. He was not accessory to it. Um, but anyways, he's got a big story that's a part of it. I'm trying to say he was a bystander for one of the victims, as well. I'll say is as a child, if he acted on something, he probably could have avoided one of the victims happening. Um, and he was one of the people at the property when they went to go get Lorenzo and Rachel. Um, and then um, I think that's it. Okay. The only other mentionable thing is kind of just like there's an aftermath. Um, so the wolf, he says, "Welcome into my museum. Here's kind of like how it exists. Here's why. Here's the story of these two. Let's get into the mysterious house stuff." We see the mysterious house. We see the new art style. We see more of Rachel. We see TVA. We see the death of Tammy. We see more inclusive scenes, and then we get the scrapbook and Tammy's sister kind of involved to make it feel more natural in between the two stories. And then kind of giving the little fan service of Bond being there, and then giving it a deeper connection with the father of Jay, is basically how it is all. And the wolf basically just is like, so after Mysterious House brings them down to the fun house to explain Return of the Pumpkin Rabbit, and then they walk into the end with the mannequins of the Watermans. The end is probably one of the biggest things. I would say, while it's nothing major because the wolf has nothing to do with the story, but I think he kind of, like, his story makes it worth it, and especially what happens in that room makes it worth it. And I think in that room has some of the most horror of the entire tape. Then after that, we do get to kind of see an aftermath scene of the kids tormenting at least Lorenzo, and it looks like it was not completed before the tape was needed to going out. So it looks like you got a storyboard of what was supposed to happen, but you got the basic ideas. You got the audio. So yeah, just in general, it's like it has effects. It does it polishes up from what the original two were. Adding the wolf in to kind of like narrate it, make it feel of that era. But yet it's also kind of like giving it a little bit of a story of an afterwards. And then kind of giving a possibility to a future, because there is a possible future to the Pumpkin Rabbit, um, thanks to the tales of the Pumpkin Rabbit. So we might get a third, but I think Martin has said that it will be a while before the Pumpkin Rabbit does pop up, because he's supposed to be like not an annual character, not a spastic character, a character that just every now and again here's a little treat. Um, and then, but yeah, it's just so in general it feels nice to have it. It feels nice to have those little scenes. Um, Having better connections with the scrapbook and Tammy's sister feels more natural. It tells the story a little bit better. Um, I do like my favorite things were having TVA and Rachel being more part of it. Because while Lorenzo is the star of the show, it is nice to be more explanatory of what happens with those other two, his partner in crime, um, and like an unknown apparition that just sits in the background that was used for but a few seconds and is used as a very overly decorative record player. Um, and I'd say adding in a few of the other things makes people. It doesn't leave too much curiosity anymore. But my final thoughts are just like, yes, get the tape if you can, support it, kind of show off that you're willing to do stuff like this, because it gives them more motivation to make things like this. While it does suck that it's locked to something that is expensive, not everyone can afford that kind of stuff. And then two, it's also it's an older thing, and older things seem to be going rare. Like retro stuff is just so hard to come by anymore, and it's so expensive um, that it does feel like sure. If you are a true fan, if you really, really want it, yes, go ahead and get it. But it is hard to find certain things to actually use this thing. So it does suck that it's just like you're holding not a lot from the community, but some. Um, and like I said, it's just like I think the only things that you really need to know is that like Jay's father has a history very early in the timeline with the Watermans, and if he wasn't if he didn't stand by for a certain event, he could have saved one of the victims, and then um, when Tammy's sister rats out the Watermans, he is one of the cops to show up at the house, um, kind of giving them more reason for the Return of the Pumpkin Rabbit to happen, and to have those characters have a connection to the story. Um, and then I think the other big thing would be um, it's basically an end credits scene, being like, yes, the Return of the Pumpkin Rabbit was maybe not the end of the story. Because at the end of the Return of the Pumpkin Rabbit, you think, okay, the souls have been freed, now they can, go off, and, now the killers have to be tortured for all of eternity. No, it's very similar to Five Nights at Freddy's, where the spirits sit around to torture the killers, and the killers every now and again get a chance to will probably get a chance to get up and get moving again, because it's very hinted. It is hinted very much by the end of Tales, that it's just like all it takes is something to go wrong, to let them go free again, to make them make the Nash Lake pay for what happened to them. Um, But yeah, it's just else than having a little after credit scene to say the story might continue and having that connection to the story with uh, her Jay's father. That's about it. That's all you really missed. Anything else, it's just like it's cool to have. It's cool to see things in another way, but that's really it. Anyways, I will timestamp this. I will have the link in the description for the shop so you can go get the tape if you want it, or if you can get it. I mean, it's just a nice little thing to have in the background. I did. Oh, I closed it already. Um, a thing I do like about the tape here is that I used to have a SpongeBob tape that was made in this orange thing to kind of show that it's a Halloween special. Um, I feel like that's a nice little touch for it. Um, but yeah, it's just I'll put in the link in the description. I'll timestamp stuff for people that care for it. Um, and then hopefully does people at least some stuff. I understand that eventually you're still gonna probably want to go find out a way to see it, but please don't. Like I said, you only missed two things. The only thing you really need to know is that there's a connection through events, not really that needing to know, and then it's like, hey, pumpkin rabbit and the witch sheep might return. That is all you really need to know from the tales. Um, anyways, I will hopefully see you guys Monday. If not, I'm going to try to find a new topic. This is a pretty big topic I did not want to miss out on. But have a nice Friday. Bye bye.